So now things are working locally. Let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to get them on Heroku. So as usual, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to go ahead and log into Heroku. So Heroku login I. So my email looks right. Let's go ahead and find my password and put that in there. Cool. And then let's go ahead and make a new app, Heroku create. Great. So now I have this new app and everything looks good. We're going to take this command, which is Heroku add-ons create, and then Heroku PostgreSQL, and then hobby-dev. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we've made this new database, and it basically says this database is created and is available. It's empty, and you can copy using PG copy. Cool. Now let's go ahead and do Heroku PG wait. Okay. So now what we're going to do is basically make our changes into our code and make the Flask app actually read from the prod PostgreSQL on Heroku. So not the local one, but the Postgres one. So instead of the app.config, this line right here, instead of database URI here, let's just go ahead and change this to os.getEnv and then do database URL. And so we're just going to comment out this line here. Okay, let's do that, and let's see what database URL looks like here. Right now it looks like nothing. Okay, so let's go ahead and inside of our usual env file, so inside of, where is it? Right here in our SQL env file, let's go ahead and throw this into there basically, and let's give it that name. Let's just go ahead and say database URL inside of there. So I'm going to do that, and then don't forget to replace SQL user and SQL password inside of that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've gone ahead and replaced database URL locally with the actual database that I have. But then on Heroku, we're actually going to have that be the same thing. Just to prove that that works, let's go ahead and do python app.py. And then when we refresh, everything should work exactly the same as before. So just to test it, test address, and everything works. And that's because that this database URL is exactly what we had before. So let's actually go ahead and do os.environ. So that way we can use our python.env stuff. Okay, so now we want to push our Heroku changes up to, or our local changes up to Heroku. But before we do that, we have to actually change our database and make sure that we're the right owner of that. So let's go ahead, and inside of here, we can basically do the following command. So let's go ahead and do alter database, and then let's take the Postgres database, the one that we've been using, and then let's do owner2, and then whatever your name was in SQL.env, whoever you've been using. So in my case, it was just to me. So let's go ahead and do that. And then if we do a /du, we should see basically that Sresht has the power to do that. And then if we do a /l, then basically we should see that this Postgres table, the Postgres database has an owner of Sresht. That's exactly what we should be doing. And again, that owner should match whatever your value is in SQL.env. Okay, and now that we've done that, we can go ahead and run this command. So this is going to be pg user equals Sresht, or whatever your SQL.env username was. Then you're going to type Heroku pg push Postgres database URL, and that's it. And then press enter. It's going to ask for your password, and this is again the password in SQL.env. And then it's going to say PG restore errored with 1. That's fine. We expect that to happen, so don't worry too much about that. Now we're just going to go ahead and do Heroku PG and then pSQL. So Heroku PG : pSQL. And from here, you can basically figure out what tables you have. So inside of here, you can do the same like /du, and this is like a whole bunch of crap that we don't know too much about. But let's go ahead and select star from USPS. And we're expecting that we see these 3 addresses. Let's go ahead and try it. We're seeing exactly those 3 addresses. So that's how we actually push our Heroku database up. So now that we've been able to push that up, let's go ahead and actually deploy our app. So we can quit out of here doing git by doing command or control D. Then if we do a git status, we have all of these things that we've changed. So let's go ahead and commit those changes. So I'm going to go ahead and commit those changes now. Okay, so now if I do a git status, I should see that everything is pushed and committed. Cool. Now let's go ahead and make our Heroku files. So these are the same as usual. So let's make a touch proc file and touch requirements.txt. I'm going to show you a little shortcut called pip freeze that you can use to load all of your requirements into requirements.txt. So now if we open up requirements.txt, it's going to have pretty much everything we have on our VM. It's a little janky because obviously most of these things, like we're not using like most of the things inside of here, but it's just a little easier. It's just like more exhaustive. I would never recommend that you do this for like long term or anything like that, but like you would not want to do that for industry, but for now I don't want to spend too much time on that, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just writing out pip freeze into requirements.txt, and then we're going to write into our proc file. So let's go ahead and write into that. So web app.py, so that's going to be web python app.py into our proc file. Okay, cool. If I do a git status, I see these 2 things. So I'll do a git add on the proc file and the requirements.txt. So now I'm going to commit again. So this is going to say add Heroku files. Okay, and now I'm going to pull and push using gpush. Now if I do a git remote-v, I'm going to see my different things. So I'm going to do a git push Heroku master. And then let's go ahead and wait for this to happen. It's saying that it's reached my concurrent builds limit. So one way that I can fix this is if I do a pkill Heroku, and then just try that one more time. It's not happy with that, so let me figure out how to fix that. I went on here, and when I checked my activity log, I saw that I have a current build. I control-C'd out of it, but I didn't kill the build. So basically I'm going to go in here, and it says, so I basically said how to kill a Heroku build that's in progress, and it gave me this link, so I'm going to go ahead and run this. People say that it's working. So let's go ahead and install that. And then apparently I should just be able to do something like this. Let's go ahead and run that, whatever the name of that project is. Cool. Wonderful. Looks good. And then let's go ahead and do a git push Heroku master. Okay, and now it's actually building, so I was able to cancel my concurrent build, and now things are working as I would expect them to. Okay, so it looks like my app is ready to go now. It deployed successfully, so let's go ahead and open that up. And we expect this not to work right now because we haven't put all of our env files in. So it actually looks like I had one more thing in here that I don't need to worry about, which is all this SQL user, SQL password DB user. We don't need any of these. So your app should still work without all of that. So just to test that out, we run that code, and then we refresh it, and then we do a hard refresh here. Everything still works, and that's because the database URI inside our SQL.env should already have everything we need. So that should have the username and password already put into there. So go ahead and delete that, push, and then commit and push, and then it will be a lot easier for you to configure. So I'm going to go ahead and git add this, git commit, deleted, unused, or delete, unused, environment variables in Python. Then I'm going to do an hpush. Oops, hpush. And now that that happens, it just simplifies things a lot. And then this database URL is already going to be configured automatically for you inside of Heroku. So you don't have to actually change anything. You don't have to go and enter anything into there. So this was interesting. So I actually had my hidden gorge, like a Heroku API. I pressed open app, I hard refreshed, and things weren't working. This wasn't working before. It was actually, I believe I can actually find it. It had an application error, and it said use the Heroku logs. One thing that I did was I actually went into more, and I pressed restart all dynos, and then I pressed the scary red button here. And then 1 minute later, after you do that, go ahead and click on this open app. So it's going to restart all dynos, basically says turn off that server and turn it back on. So it's going to take a second, but once you're able to do that, it should work as you would expect it to. So let's enter a USPS address. I'm going to go ahead and enter my address now. Great, and now it's working as we would expect, and it's actually using the Heroku database instead of my local database. So that is how you deploy to Heroku. You basically follow those steps where you're configuring your variables using this, and then you have those commands that you're going to run. So basically, like you're going to run those like hg:push and stuff like that. So all of those commands, you don't have to memorize them. They're going to be on your slides, and you can just take them from the slides. Once you've done that, you can basically push your local database into Heroku, and it's basically going to make a copy. It's going to make a deep copy, so your local and your Heroku databases have nothing to do with one another after the initial push. So now we have our app on Heroku, and one thing that you noticed was we actually pushed our app, we actually, in our proc file, have the exact same thing that we had before, Python app.py. Doesn't matter that we have a database, doesn't matter that we're using React. It's still the same web app that we're deploying overall.